Kim English started working at Carolina last Wednesday, and the duration of his time at Carolina ends up being shorter than my summer church camp relationships in middle school. Yikes.
This is Tyler Zeller, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Sunday evening. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. It's April 19th. This is our Monday show, though, getting going for you on Sunday evening. We like to get it going ahead of time. Coming up on the show today, we'll take a look ahead later on at, we've been talking a lot about could some NC State guys actually be some of the answer in the transfer portal. We'll get there. One more recap of kind of the baseball wins of the weekend. Man, a successful weekend against Georgia Tech. Before we get to that, though, Tennessee making some more transfer portal moves on Sunday. And in my opinion, that takes them out of the Juke Harris running. I'll explain my thoughts on that coming up. But before we get to all of that, oh my, the news drops on Sunday afternoon that apparently Kim English, less than a week after he started working at Carolina, is now no longer going to be working at North Carolina. We'll discuss that, some things that I've heard from a source, and we'll talk about then what it means and where to go from here. By the way, I mentioned this on our live postcast after the baseball game this afternoon. If you want to check that out and you missed it, I'll link it up here so you can go back and watch that. But somebody in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord had sent me earlier today. They were at Walmart and they just started turning TVs on to Locked On Tar Heels. So next time you're at Walmart or Target or Best Buy or wherever it is and there's TVs, go do the Lord's work. Pull up some Locked On Tar Heels, won't you? And shoot a pic and send it my way. Would love to see it. Okay. On Sunday afternoon, this news about Kim English was first reported by Pete Thamel of ESPN. He said, quote, this is from his Twitter feed. Sources, Kim English has informed UNC officials that he's decided not to pursue an assistant coach position at North Carolina. English is the former head coach at Providence and George Mason. This is confirmed then by Inside Carolina, who Pete Thamel had at first. Inside Carolina confirms it, breaking after accepting the job and beginning work last week. Kim English has changed his mind and will no longer be part of Michael Malone's staff at North Carolina. So from the reporting, Kim English started last Wednesday, was already starting to get hands-on, was doing some recruiting, things of that nature. And legitimately, I mean, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and now the news comes out Sunday. So that's less than a week, you guys. That's crazy. And I know, like, after the Dylan Mingo news last week, was like, oh, well, okay. There's somebody kind of decommitting from the program, never thinking that if somebody else decommitted from the program, it would be a coach. What on earth? And so this is interesting because obviously right before today, Michael Malone had 4 of his 5 coaches in place. You get 5 assistant coaches in college basketball. 2 of them were holdovers from the Hubert Davis regime. That's Pat Sullivan. That's Sean May. Had brought in Chuck Martin from Arkansas to be like this guy that had been with Coach Cal the last 3 years, had done a great job concocting and bringing together their recruiting classes. And so that's great. And then in comes Kim English, who had lost his job at Providence after last year and was going to be able to bring that guy that had been a head coach at the Division I major level. And I know there is this tendency to want to say when he's coming in, right, to praise the hire and say, oh, this is great and this is good and yay, we're so happy. And then when something like this happens, you immediately see the opposite reaction where everybody's now like, oh, he wasn't all that great. He wasn't all that good of a head coach. I don't know if this was going to work out after all. No. You can't have it both of those ways. So hear me talk. I'm going to talk out of the same side of my mouth because with the Kim English hire, I said this is a great hire for Michael Malone and staff. I think he's going to be helpful as someone who has literally last year as a head coach at the Division I high major level in the Big East, navigated the portal and NIL and other things. Yes, it wasn't as successful as it needed to be at Providence these last 3 years, but he did it and was part of it, brings a young energy. should be a good recruiter. And so if I felt strongly that he was going to be a big asset for this staff, then I have to say the same thing when he steps off of it, that this is a massive loss, in my opinion, for North Carolina. Yes, Michael Malone can still go out and get someone who has head coaching experience. Kind of from some of the conversations we had like last week, we talked with Brendan Marks, and he said, I think that fifth guy needs to be a player development guy. Hello, I'd love to see like a Jawad Williams, who's a North Carolina guy that's doing that for the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? That's his role there. Whomever it may be, right? There's a lot of options there. Because you had kind of your guy with head coaching experience at the D1 high major level. So now I feel like you got to go out and refine that. Somebody who can be that young recruiting kind of guy. This, for me, big loss for Carolina. Now, what I will not say, though, while I will say it's a big loss, a lot of people are saying this is some referendum, that maybe there's something behind the scenes with Michael Malone or anything like that. I truly, and sure, this could be proven wrong. I truly, from sources I have reached out and talked to and whatever today, don't think that's the case at all. There's also a lot of questions about, does this mean Kim English actually ended up getting a head coaching job somewhere? I don't believe that is the case from anybody I've talked to. There was also some speculation of, hey, Kim English was kind of feeling broken down at the end of last year and, just kind of beaten down over whatever, where you just kind of like, I need a break. And so maybe got into this and was like, I really think I need a break. It's been told to me by a source that that's not it either. There's a couple things here. Is one, again, this is from a source to me, that there were some thoughts that there were incoming high level, like at least one high school recruit that could be flipped, and that hasn't proven to be true. Another thing being that, as we know, things weren't in the best shape behind the scenes, as with the former staff leaving, and that Coach English got in and was like, oh man, this is a little bit more of a mess than perhaps I realized. And it's like, I don't know. Right. And so what does that mean for where he goes? I don't even know that it matters, whether it's taking a year off or going to the NBA or finding another NCAA gig, whatever. With that, the truth of the matter is he's gone. And so, yes, you got to figure out specifically why and what and how you fix that. But then you got to look at, okay, so now where you thought you just needed one assistant, now you got to go and find two. Now you need two more assistants to fill out your staff. And again, because you've got the two guys that are holdovers from the Hubert Davis era, tenure, whatever you want to call it, I do feel like you've got to get at least one more outsider to balance that. And I could honestly go either way on the fifth. You've got Michael Malone, who he himself is kind of adopted in now because of his daughter, Bridget, playing volleyball at Carolina. But so you've got something of a balance. At least one of these two final hires has to be outside the traditional Carolina family, in my opinion. You could push back on that. I would love it. Great. Push back. That's awesome. And then as for the fifth one, go get a Carolina guy, a Jawad Williams. Go get somebody that doesn't really have ties to Carolina. I don't mind, as long as they're bought in on being at Carolina. One of the things that, it does give me pause, whatever the reason, firmly for Coach English leaving, is it more on the staff or on Kim English that they didn't see the issue before he got in and got going, right? Is it something that could have been avoided? Is that an issue of someone in a Michael Malone coming in that didn't have that head coaching experience at the D1 level? I don't know that that's it, because I don't care what world you're in, what realm you're in. You know how to read people as a head coach. You know who you need to be part of your staff. And so fully, and then again, from that kind of information from sources and talking to that today, feels to me like this is, and again, this is Isaac, this part of it specifically is Isaac's opinion, that this is more on the Kim English side of it than the Michael Malone not doing his due diligence side of it. That's where I would leave it as that. So now I look, and I know I get it because of, hey, look, we got the Neo Avdalas news last Monday. We got the Jaron Stevenson news last Monday. We got the Kim English news last Monday, and then he started Wednesday. But then since then, we've not really gotten any other positive news other than Isaiah Dennis recommitting to come back to Carolina, which broke yesterday. Because of the Terrence Brown family stuff over the weekend, which still continuing to think of and pray for their family until he decides he's ready to make a decision and commit somewhere, which again seems like it's going to be Carolina. But I think some people still might not have heard that and are just like, what's this dude's deal? Why didn't he commit? What's going on behind this? And so I think all of that builds up. And so people are worried about that. And the Kim English news, and what about Juke Harris, and why hasn't Henry Vesa? Like all of that comes together. And I think people are freaked out right now. And I get that and I hear it. But and this is the way Isaac Schade goes, but I'm going to continue to caution patience, to exercise patience, to let some of this play out. And I know that's not the ideal thing to do right now, because you see Louisville and Indiana and Tennessee and Texas just loading up in the transfer portal, right? I hear it. But you gotta let things play out. And when you want to get into it with a Juke Harris, who is testing the NBA draft waters, when you want to get into it with Henry Vesar, who is thinking hard about that as well, it seems, you got to wait. Now, the good news is that the NBA early entry draft deadline is coming up this Friday. And so Henry has to announce something by then. You know what I mean? Juke Harris already has. He's going through that process. So you wait on that. So that's where I'm at right now. Is this stinks. Again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Losing Kim English, I think, is a loss. Some people disagree with that. Some people's pushback to me this week has been, I hear it. He's got experience, but wasn't crazy successful as a head coach. And so I don't think I like it. And I understand that. But sometimes it just doesn't work out for head coaches, and they're great assistants, and they come back and be assistants. So we'll see. Got to let the dust settle. But regardless of all that, one more time, the most important thing is getting back to the grind and refilling it. That's what you always do. You have a list ready and you go get it. All right. Now, on Sunday, Tennessee added yet another backcourt piece, one who we as Tar Heels are unfortunately very familiar with because he cooked the Tar Heels in the NCAA tournament this year. But here's my take on it. With this addition, plus some others, Tennessee, in my mind, is now firmly out of the Juke Harris race. I'll explain why I believe that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Indeed. Workplace chaos. Deadlines are stacking up. Your inbox is overflowing. And the one position you still need to fill is sitting there wide open. So when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, that's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs, who helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so that you're not just hoping the right candidate is going to stumble across your post. Here's a stat that says it all for you, gang. In the minute that I'm talking to you, companies just like yours make 27 hires with Indeed, according to their worldwide data. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. Because when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, that's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of our show are going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get that premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. So go there right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked On Tar Heels. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thanks for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listener watch. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. If you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club. Get ad-free audio, one-on-one messaging across access to me as well, members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. Go to LockedOnTarHeels.supercast.com, and you can find that link down in the show notes as well. You all, the Juke Harris sweepstakes carry on. It has been played out, but part of that is because he's working through the NBA draft process as well. And he has multiple suitors, including Carolina, who would like to pay him a whole lot of money to stay and play college basketball. Those four teams, it seems, or those three teams plus the NBA, seem like the most likely candidates are Michigan, Carolina, Tennessee, and again, the NBA, if he decides to do that. I think, personally, Juke would be well-suited to come back to school for at least one more year. Popped off last year, his sophomore year. I think another junior year showing it would be good for him. Tennessee, you might be aware, has been absolutely loading up in the transfer portal. It's crazy. And on Sunday morning, I'm sitting at church, getting ready to lead some singing, and the news comes out that they have gotten a commitment from VCU transfer Terrence Hill Jr. You might remember that name because he torched Carolina to the tune of 34 points in that first round upset at the hands of the VCU Rams last year. And so that came out from On3, and I quote tweeted it and said, look, this is another great get for Rick Barnes and the Vols, because I think it is, man. I think he's going to be really good. But I said it also almost certainly is the nail in the coffin of Juke Harris to Tennessee, because Juke Harris had been crystal balled to Tennessee. Lots of people think that's the play. And so I said, then that would mean it's Michigan versus Carolina versus the NBA draft for Mr. Harris. I replied to it to say, this is not about Terrence Hill Jr. versus Juke Harris, because they are not a positional fit. They're just not. They're not the same. Terrence Hill is more of a point guard or shooting guard. Juke can be a shooting guard, but kind of a big wing, whatever you want to go with it, right? So I said this is about Tennessee's backcourt already having all the pieces they need. And now that would mean if Juke comes, that's one of these dudes off the bench. Here's why. Terrence Hill, who just committed, can play the 1 or the 2. Let's say he's the 1. They've also, Tennessee, got Day Ames, who transferred in from California. He's either the 1 or the 2 as well. High usage guys. And then they got a commitment last week, and this is the one that to me is more positionally aligned. I just thought, yes, you've got Jalen Harrelson from Notre Dame, who essentially is a very similar player to what you would be able to get from Juke Harris for not as much money. And so I thought those guys could coexist, but because Tennessee keeps loading up at that in backcourt positions and at the wing, it doesn't make sense to me now. And so I think a lot of Tennessee fans were mad because they're like, boy, you're an idiot. They don't even play the same position. I'm like, I know they don't play the same position, you dorks. The problem is how many guys. It's a logjam between the backcourt and the wings of what Tennessee has available to them at their disposal. And so that's more what I wanted to talk about, is everything that the Volunteers have going on. Like if we go look at their what they've got coming in, it's not just those 3 guys. It's additionally Ralph Scott, who's coming in. He's a small forward. He's 6'8". That's very Juke Harris. That's very Jalen Harrelson. They've also got the even more highly ranked Christopher Washington Jr., a 6'9" small forward from Murfreesboro, which is very close, oh, by the way, to Knoxville. And then we haven't even talked about another transfer they've got coming in, Tyler Blade, who's a 6'5" shooting guard, small forward. And so you look at all that, and I'm like, look, it's not impossible for Juke to not come, but you've got all that. Even just Terrence Hill, Day Ames, and Jalen Harrelson. If Juke comes in, unless you're playing Juke or Jalen at the 4, which I don't think you are unless it's a small ball lineup, one of those 4 dudes is sitting on the bench, and I don't think any of them are going to Knoxville to sit on the bench. Plus, you've got these other transfers and freshmen coming in who also play the 2, 3, or 4, depending on if you want to go small ball. And so Tennessee fans are like, nah, dude, we got the money, and we're going to drop bags. Okay, great. Somebody is going to be irked and pissed, and there's going to be struggles with the logjam. I see this every summer, you guys. I cover college basketball nationally. These teams struggle with roster construction because they go out and get too many dudes at one position. So for me, there's a couple things. I'm not saying it's impossible, but number one, a better allocation of their resources based on what they already have and what they don't have is to go spend that Juke Harris money on the front court, Tennessee, because they lost like 4 front court guys. And again, there's also, we haven't even talked about this, the fact that Nate Ament might come back. And Tennessee fans are making concessions on Twitter with me about that. Like, hey, if Nate Ament comes back, I get it, right? Like, no, Juke shouldn't come. But Nate Ament or no Nate Ament, I don't think he should. My favorite response, though, to my tweet was from a guy that's actually a Carolina guy who's apparently been keeping receipts on me for like 4 years, because he says, when I said the nail in the coffin for Juke Harris to Tennessee, he said, it's not. Why are you so bad at this? Meaning me. Gigi won't decommit. Luka is a star. What are you doing? So what I think this Tar Heel fan is trying to say is, Isaac, you're really bad at your job because you said Gigi Jackson wouldn't decommit, which is, first off, not true. I just said, keep an eye on it. Let's not freak out until we actually know that he doesn't commit. But cool, that's fine. You can have that one. Luka is a star. I said Luka could be Carolina's leading scorer, and that wouldn't shock me. I never said Luka was a star. But cool, go ahead and cook, buddy. And so, hey, but let's say I did get those wrong. If I've only gotten 2 things wrong in the last 4 years or whatever, I'm doing a great job because I say a lot of words, but it's just all this, people get freaked out. All of it to say, in my mind, Tennessee is or should be, if they were smart, out of the Juke Harris running now, which puts Carolina, along with Michigan, in a great spot if he should decide to pull out of the NBA draft. But the problem is you start to look forward and it's like, all right, Isaac, fine. But what if Carolina doesn't get Juke Harris? What do they do then? Great question. I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about some more options for who Carolina could pivot to, and we'll do that in just a second. Interestingly enough, there's a couple guys down the road in Raleigh, North Carolina, that I think might actually be good fits for Carolina, either with or without Juke Harris. And we got an interesting question about that yesterday. Matt Abel was a dynamic freshman at NC State last year. He's down to a final 7 right now of Baylor, Stanford, UCLA, UConn, Miami, Virginia, and Carolina. And you look at some of those and it's like UConn has everything they need. Maybe you want to go there and be a piece, Miami's been loading up. They're really good. The nice thing about looking at Matt Abel is, on one hand, you could go out and get the proven commodity of Juke Harris and pay a premium to get him. I mean, you're paying a pretty penny for him and you got lots of money to spend still. So, okay. But if you go get Matt Abel, he was one of the more impressive, unheralded freshmen, just because there were so many of them this season, that he's somebody that could have a massive leap into his sophomore year, similar to what Juke did, but you can get him at a fraction of the cost that you would pay to get Juke Harris. So a lot of people really like the idea of Matt Abel, either instead of to save some money or as a backup to Juke Harris. So that's a name to watch out for, but so is his teammate from last year, Paul McNeil. We talked about him on the show last week because one of the things that Carolina still desperately needs, and referencing Brendan Marks again, this is something he talked about last week, is next thing Carolina really needs, now an assistant coach, is a sniper, an absolute dude who can go out and at a proven level, knock him down. And that's Paul McNeil. Paul McNeil last year hit over 100 threes for NC State, which has happened just twice in the entire history of Carolina basketball. I'm not even joking. That's true. And also did it at an over 40% clip. Carolina didn't have somebody like that last year. I'll tell you that much right now. Now there's other guys that could do that too. Milan Momcilovic in kind of the draft process and the portal right now. There's no word of Carolina connecting with him, but this dude led the NCAA in made threes and 3-point percentage last year. That volume with that efficiency, what are we doing? That's crazy. And so while I know it's a struggle for a lot of us to think about, could I have an NC State player on my basketball team? Well, they've taken a couple Tar Heels. It's going to happen. And so, I mean, it sounds like legitimately there's conversation with both of these dudes at some level. I personally, in this day and age, I'm fine. If they want to come play at Carolina and they're winners, that's what I care about. And I know that's hard because that breaks down the rivalry walls that we love. But to me, I mean, a lot of these players are always friends anyway, and it's more the hatred between the fans. So I don't think getting a player from State diminishes the hatred of the rivalry between the fans. So I'm fine with that. Now, we had some interesting questions because somebody asked, would you, Isaac, I think this was on our live last night after the baseball game. Isaac, would you prefer Matt Abel or Paul McNeil? And that's a great question because McNeil brings the sharpshooting that you need. I mean, good grief. Carolina is going to need that. But with Matt Abel, I think there is more well-rounded game that he would bring, and I has a higher ceiling than McNeil, right? Like McNeil, you kind of know what you're getting with him. With Matt Abel, you saw a lot of that his freshman year, and he could take a big leap. And so maybe that's what you want to go get and go down on. So part of the answer, this, which do you prefer, I think is also wrapped up in, depending on what else is on the roster. Is Henry back or is Henry not? You've got Jaron, you've got Avdalis, you've got Isaiah Dennis, you've got Jaden Young, you've got Maximo Adams coming in. That's kind of it right now. And so you just need people. Honestly, I would take both of them if the money and the other people made sense to do so. But that's part of it. I do like, though, that Carolina is in talks with both of these guys. We'll see what ultimately happens. Because again, if you can get that breakout candidate before he's stupid expensive, that's a great bargain and budget. So lots still to figure out with who can Carolina get on this roster, because now they need players and now they need 2 more coaches. So whether it's waiting out Juke, because that's the thing. Where was it? I might have gotten rid of it. Somebody asked, and I've completely lost it, but it was from our live last night or yesterday afternoon after the baseball game, or maybe it was in our live after the Isaiah Dennis commitment. If Paul McNeil or Matt Abel was willing to come now, would you do that to have the confirmation of getting that instead of waiting on Juke? Like if Paul McNeil came to you and said, "Hey, look, if you want me, I'll come right now." But maybe that means you don't end up waiting on Juke Harris. And if you don't take Paul McNeil right now or Matt Abel, maybe he's gone by the time you wait for Juke because he's committed elsewhere. That's a hard calculus to reckon with right there, I think at some level, you look and say, you know what? Give me Abel for the uncertainty and the dollars saved that you could spend on somebody else, right? Because it's not just, yes, it's about getting one big fish, but if you could get multiple guys who could pop, I think that could be a big win as well. Hence the struggle of roster construction in this day and age. It is absolutely crazy. Let's go to baseball, where the Diamond Heels had a huge weekend at home. They're number 3 in the nation. They were playing number 2, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had not lost a series all season long. They were number 1 in the ACC. They had scored 19 or more runs in every series this year. They had all these numbers. Their offense is ridiculous by many metrics, the number 1 offense in the nation. Carolina won the series 2-1, so handed Georgia Tech their only series loss of the season thus far. They've got a couple more. North Carolina held Georgia Tech to a grand total of 11 runs, 2 on Friday night, 4 yesterday afternoon, and 5 on Sunday afternoon. The fewest they had in any one series was 19 prior to this, before that 26. So that's 11, 19, and 26. Carolina never let them score more than 5. There was only one other instance this entire season that Georgia Tech had scored fewer than 10 runs in 3 straight games. And that was they scored 18 runs. I think it was 2 against Clemson and then 1 against Auburn. Carolina did it both defensively, holding down that potent Georgia Tech lineup, which has like 2 top 10 prospects in it. Oh, by the way, but Carolina also did it offensively. And that's the pitching for Carolina has been strong and solid, but it's been the question mark this season has been the inconsistency of the offense. Well, no Georgia Tech starting pitcher made it into the 4th inning. Carolina chased them all by the 3rd inning or sooner. And part of that is because they did work in the 1st inning, where Carolina scored 3 Friday, 3 Saturday, and 1 on Sunday. And they drove the pitch total up to at least 25 in the 1st inning of all 3 games, 32, 28, and then today, Sunday, 25. So the North Carolina Tar Heels, the Diamond Heels, have put the nation on notice. I fully expect Carolina to jump Georgia Tech when the new polls come out, be the number 2 overall team in the nation. They are now 1 game back in the ACC since they didn't sweep the series, but that's great. Georgia Tech has harder series down the stretch of ACC play than Carolina does. But what Carolina has done, despite the inability to sweep, is fine. I mean, they won the series. They were wildly competitive, even in the game that they lost. And so now everyone has to take notice and say, this Carolina team is for real. It's legit. And unless Carolina just wets their leg down the stretch, they should easily be a top 8 team when those brackets are revealed, and Carolina be able to host both the regional and super regional. That's great news. You love to see it. Lots of other Carolina action all over the place. It's just the things I wanted to hit. We will be back with more, obviously, throughout the week. We're going to continue to do these lives at night because with the news cycle changing all the time, I want to make sure I'm getting you the most updated info in real time every time I can. And so I know there's a ton of comments over there. Don't have time to go catch them right now. But what my promise to you is that I'm going to go look at them, read through them. And if there's anything we need to hit from those, we'll do so at some point later this week. So summing it back all up, big news of the day. Kim English kind of decommits from Carolina, decides ultimately not to join Coach Michael Malone's staff as an assistant. So Carolina goes from looking for 1 assistant to 2. Carolina has essentially 5 rotation guys locked in from player standpoint and needs to keep adding. And that is why all of this feels so massive right now and why people are kind of losing their collective minds, because Carolina needs dudes. When is that going to happen? Who's it going to be? We'll keep our eyes on it. We'll get back to it tomorrow. I want to thank you all for being here with me on a Sunday evening live right here on YouTube. If you've not subscribed to Locked On Tar Heels already on YouTube, go ahead and do that down in the corner. Hit that bell notification and enable all notifications so that when we go live or a premiere's dropping, you will get a push notification and you can tap right in. If you're not already downloading the audio version of the show, could I just humbly request that you go and do that? Even if you also watch, just download, even if you don't listen to it, download it, because that really, really, really helps move forward the name of the show. And I'd appreciate it so much. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, man, we've been going bonkers in there today between the baseball game, the Kim English news. Love to have you jump in on those chats with us. The link's in the show notes, as is the link for the Everydayer Club, where, again, you get ad-free versions of the show, one-on-one messaging with me. You guys know the drill. Say it with me to close the show. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.